What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Slice of TV, where we dive into the newest and greatest of TV. I am one of your hosts, Brett Parker. Joining me, as always, for this Last of Us journey, we have Wyatt from Cinema Trip Reviews back. Welcome back, Wyatt.
Hi, buddy. Hey, what's going on?
Oh, just, just reeling from the episode last night. So, from my watch last night. And joining us from so many different podcasts, but you might know her from Give Me Back My Action Horror Movies and the Barrens Hideout podcast. We have Anna in the house. Welcome back, Anna.
Hello. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. I picked a doozy of an episode. Didn't realize the shit was going to hit the fan in episode 2.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, Anna, quick question. What is your history with The Last of Us? Like, as a whole?
I didn't play the games.
Okay.
I came into it when the first season started. I was like, this looks good. I like apocalyptic shows or movies. Zombies, for lack of a better word. Come to find out, they're infected, obviously, the term in this. And I was hearing, nobody wanted to spoil, like, what happens. Like, when on my old show, we actually reviewed the first season, and my old co-host, like, they were very secretive about, like, they didn't want to spoil anything for me. And then there was kind of a gap, much like with Yellow Jackets, between the first season and the second one. And I just kind of got antsy, and curiosity got the best of me. And my buddy at work's a gamer, and he had played the games, but didn't watch the show. So we were like comparing notes, and I was like, you know what? Just tell me, like, what's the big thing that happens in the game? And he's like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, it can't be that bad. And I was so wrong. I wish he would have took a picture of my face, like, in that present moment. I was like, the world, like, TV viewers are going to riot when this happens.
Oh, it's already happening. I've been seeing comments and all this stuff coming from just this episode, and we'll talk about it when we get to certain points. But yeah, it's interesting to get, because we reviewed the first season as well, and me and Wyatt have played both games, so we know we knew this was coming. What happened in this episode? It was just when was it going to happen? So I think it's going to be fun to have you join us as often as you can to experience the show without knowing maybe the full extent of what happens in The Last of Us Part 2. The game,
right?
So,
well, I have also, like, once it got spoiled for me, I watched walkthroughs on YouTube of people playing it. So I don't know every little detail, but I know the major stuff for the most part.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, we are just going to hop right into spoilers. So if you haven't watched the second episode of season 2 of The Last of Us, what are you doing? Why are you here? Why are you listening to this?
Why are you here?
You come back after you watch the episode, please, because we're just hopping right into spoilers. So this is your warning. Well, I think, there's a lot that happens in this episode. This is one of the craziest episode 2s I've ever seen for a show. Like, when you're going into a second episode of a season and you have this much happen, you're like, how the hell are they even going to come close to this, like, magnitude for the rest of it? So
yeah, that's a fear of mine right now. I'm like, how are they going to ride this momentum for the rest of the season with already people being pissed off?
Yeah.
It felt like a season finale, or the episode before a season finale.
Yeah, the penultimate episode before the finale.
Yep.
So yeah, I think we need to just start with the biggest
elephant in the room,
the biggest moment of the episode, and that is, of course, the death of Joel.
Yeah.
Boy, I don't care how much I knew that this was going to happen. It still hit me. Like, with the entirety of the event. It does play differently in the show compared to the game. The game, to be honest, I'm going to say it, I think the game did it better. But I know why they went in the direction they did with the show, because to anybody who doesn't know, the event that happens in Jackson does not happen in the game. We only hear of attacks on Jackson, but it's like minor stuff, like raiders, and they had like small hordes of infection that would attack, but nothing of this magnitude. Like, this was like, I'm sitting there like, what the hell is happening? This is insane. So yeah, so in the game, Joel is matched up with Tommy instead of Dina. and Ellie is matched up with Dina, and Dina and Ellie actually they have some relations on their journey during this whole episode, like the events of this episode, where and then Joel and Tommy are together and they get into the situation by saving why am I blanking? Oh, Abby. Jeez. They yeah, they're together when they save Abby in a similar situation, and then the events kind of play out the same. Anna, since you know of what happens in the game, you know that this was coming, like what were your feelings with the death of Joel?
I wish now I hadn't had it spoiled for me, to be honest, because my gripe with the episode is I feel like the death wasn't as bad. I feel like they should have made it worse. Like you said, the game did it better, and I agree. I think it was way more brutal. And me being like a gore hound too, I wanna see that. That makes it even more impactful to see it, especially a death of this magnitude in a show. One of two main characters, for lack of better terms. And I felt like it was really anticlimactic. I was sad, obviously, and I loved the lead up to it. And I chuckled when he's like, "Will you just shut up and get on with it already?" And I kind of felt the same thing. I was like, "Quit talking."
I know.
But yeah, I feel like it could have been better. It could have been worse in a better way.
What about you, Wyatt?
Yeah, I think she hit the nail on the head. I mean, I didn't think it was nearly as impactful as the game was. And I mean, I think that could just be because we really know what was going to happen. But and it's going to be hard to make something surprising that you already know is going to happen, you know. But I don't know. I feel like even with if you would have done it how it was in the game with having Tommy there, it would have been a little bit more impactful as well. Just because we don't really know the extent of Dina and Joel's relationship. We know that they are somewhat close. But I feel like if you would have had Ellie there and also Tommy there fighting for their lives to try to get to Joel, I feel like that would have helped a little bit more. But man, that golf club, like the way they kind of changed it within the show here where she stabs it through his neck and everything, I feel like that worked in its favor, I think. But I think everything else, like the way she was drawing it out and having like kind of the villain monologue over top of everything, like I feel like that wasn't necessarily needed, especially since you had the opening of the episode, which we'll get to and everything. But I think they did a good job. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head though. As far as an impactful, I think the game did a little bit better.
Yeah, because Joel in the game, Joel never finds out why she's doing this.
Yeah.
Like he never knows. He never knows that he killed her dad. But also, you could also tell, like, as she is doing her monologue, he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care about anything she's saying. He just, for one, he's initially he's focused on the attack that's happening in Jackson, which we're going to talk about. But yeah, I think you're right. The impact of the game where, Tommy is there witnessing the death of his brother, plus Ellie coming in. She comes in kind of in a similar way because she is with Dina, and she does show up kind of in the middle of Joel getting this just getting beaten to death by this golf club, which I'm on your side, Anna. I'm kind of wish we saw some of it because
they cut away from a lot of it
in the game. Like, well, the majority of it is showing her like punching him a lot, where she kills him with just one final blow with the golf club.
That golf club.
Like not even stab. The stabbing is an addition to the for the show, which was impactful. But I still, it still hits. I think, Joel, what we got to see with Joel and Ellie in the first season, and then having it end this way where Ellie and Joel don't have a very good relationship. They're on, it's been on the rocks because of, reasons that will be explained as we go along. But yeah, I was kind of underwhelmed. I still think this episode kicks a lot of ass, and it's not even for the scene that I think most people were kind of excited to see how the show was going to do it. Because some people were hoping that since they're changing things, that maybe they don't kill Joel. And I was like, no, you have to
question that too. I was like,
yeah, you have to kill Joel. Like, I think that because that is the setup for Ellie's story going forward. A lot of people are upset about Abby. Like, and we talked about it last week, the fact of like the casting of Caitlin Dever as
Mhm.
Abby has thrown a lot of people into a tizzy, which we talked about it last week. The fact of like, you guys were pissed off with Abby when the game came out, and now you're gonna have all these feelings about why Abby isn't jacked and all that stuff. I'm not gonna go into it any more than I have to, but
Yeah. But I mean, if you watch this episode and still don't think that she was a good choice, like I don't know what to tell you. 'Cause
Oh,
she was
Yeah,
great.
you're just picking. You're just being too
Yeah,
damn
she was
nitpicky.
tremendous.
the flip
Mhm.
she has from being terrified. Of course, she was actually terrified, when she's getting chased by that just absolutely
Oh, hell yeah.
ridiculous size horde of infected that are going after her, and then she gets saved by Joel and Dina. And that flip when when they're in the cabin and she is like, cold, and she is telling Owen that she was terrified and all that, and then she just flips because
Yep.
she goes,
Mhm.
and that's Joel, and they're all like, oh
What?
shit.
It was that easy?
Yeah. And she just turns into like a completely different person. um Pedro Pascal screams as he gets shot, and then he's getting beaten off screen. It's like, I think that's what made it not so bad compared to the game. Like, I think it was still like I said, it was still impactful. And, I think Pedro Pascal sells it so well with his performance. But yeah,
Mhm.
my favorite was definitely her going to the golf bag and
Yeah.
starting to say something. And he's just like, shut the fuck up and just do
Yeah.
it already. Like,
Well,
I
just
don't want
do
to hear
it.
any more of your bullshit. Like, I don't care.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that, I mean,
we
that,
saw it through the first season too, where he talks about like how all the bad things he's done like throughout
yeah.
like since the whole thing started. So it's like
Yeah.
this is kind of like he's expecting some comeuppance at some point, and he's ready to get it over with.
Yeah.
He doesn't care who it
Mhm.
was. He's
Yeah.
expecting it at some point.
Yeah.
And I think Bella Ramsey does a fantastic job at, the whole reaction of seeing Joel in the state
I
and,
agree, yeah.
seeing him die and then reacting to it, because it's one of those things where like she gets kicked in the ribs really hard. And it's one of
Mhm.
those things where she doesn't know if she's even going to live. I think she even has like an idea in her head that if she's going to die, she wants to die with Joel. And her
Mhm.
crawling over was a really impactful scene. But yeah, I think overall, I think it was underwhelming, but I think it still had an impact, especially if you're not familiar with the games. I think it's going to be a gut punch, but I think
Mhm.
if you've seen the game or even played it and you know how it works in the game, it might not be as impactful.
Yeah.
So it's
I think
one
the
of
only thing
those
I could
things.
kind of describe it as, like, with the game, because you're playing it, if you kind of have a sense of hope that maybe you can get out of the situation a little
Mhm.
bit. Whereas, like in the show, they're trapped up there, the town's getting attacked and everything. There's no hope. They're walking in there, you kind of know it's a doomed situation. Ellie's not going to be able to go in there and take everybody out, so somebody's going to probably end up getting taken out. Whereas, like the game, there's a little bit of a hope that maybe you're able to get out of this or save Joel or
Well,
something.
you
Mhm.
get hope because when Abby goes out, Owen tells her he has a plan, and then he tells the others when she leaves, like the
Well,
plan
yeah,
is to try to convince her to go home, like
yeah,
to just
Mhm.
not do this. And you're just like, who? Imagine if that actually was written. Like if they just were like, they convinced Abby to leave, Joel survives. Now we have this whole different story, but it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because like I said, Abby and Ellie are intertwined for the rest of the game. So they have to be intertwined for the rest of this show. And
uh-huh.
but let's talk about a massive, insane part of this episode that wasn't in the game, but I'm glad
So
that they did it
epic.
here. This was insane with a capital I. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
so Abby falls, or she's trying to stalk these people on the horse. And I don't think she knows Joel's one of them. She just
Mm-mm.
knows there's two people
But it
riding
is
a
Joel
horse.
and Dina.
It is Joel and Dina, but she doesn't know
Yeah.
that. So she slides down the side of this hill and lands in this like frozen graveyard, which I believe
Yeah.
is in the game, but I don't think it
I
just
don't remember.
this exact thing doesn't happen.
Yeah,
They
they talk
mention
about it earlier in the episode
they do.
of it happening.
Right. They do mention the fact that the infected are actually using like dead infected to like keep them. It's like a hibernation under the
Yeah, it's like
snow.
Yeah,
insulate
because they're
themselves.
getting smarter. Is
Yeah.
that something that's kind of like an aspect in the game too? Like they get
I
smarter,
don't
like
think
they
so.
evolve?
Not really. They
No?
really
They have the
Oh, I
introduced
kind of like that.
because like the
Yeah.
in the stalker. So the stalker is in the game, but like those spore things that come out of their mouths wasn't a thing.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the whole communication thing with the cordyceps. So like when they break open that pipe and it's got the cordyceps coming out,
Lets them know.
that's actually in the game. Like because there was actually moments in part 2 where if you step on certain like spores on the ground, it would actually, like if they were infected in the area, it would actually alert them to you.
Mm.
Where I
That's
don't think the
gnarly.
first game did that, but this one was
No.
crazy because as soon as they open that pipe, because they're all chasing after Abby, and then they all just
veer.
Yep, they just turn. They're just like, all right, going in a different direction, and we get one of the craziest battles I've seen on TV. Like I didn't watch Game of Thrones, so I know there was some pretty
I
crazy
did.
battles in that.
I was
but-
gonna say
I
dude, that's what
related
I was
it to
thinking
that.
the whole time. It was either like Watchers on the Wall or like the Long Night towards the end of the series.
Yeah,
That's
it was
exactly how it felt.
the snow helped add to
Mhm.
that element
Yep.
too. And oh yeah, I immediately thought of Game of Thrones. This is the stuff I live
Tommy looked like
for.
Jon Snow.
Yeah, yeah, literally with his long. Yeah, I love Tommy. I do kind of like that they did split them up in this because I feel like for the show's sake, with this new added scene, Tommy really being there helped save more people than I think would have been left if he hadn't been there. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And seeing Jackson under attack and seeing just what these infected like running. I mean, they're not technically zombies, but they are.
Yeah.
Like they
Infected.
like the fact that they have like an order of things. You have like they're like ants. They have like
Mhm.
you have the ones that are literally just running themselves into the wall. And then you have the
Uh-huh.
ones that are like strategically trying to climb the wall. And then of course you have the bloater, which is one of the most terrifying creatures ever put into a video game. The only thing I'm disappointed with the bloaters in this show compared to the game is in the game, the bloaters can actually remove parts of their body and throw it at you like a grenade, and it actually explodes into like spores.
Oh, man.
I feel that would have been a very interesting aspect if they were able to do that, where like you just see like the bloater like tear a piece of himself and just throw it over the wall, and it like hits somebody and then it just like infects them. I think it would have been super cool if they did that, but it's okay. But you could tell like so the bloater is like the final stage of the infected. Like that this is someone who got infected like when everything happened.
Yeah.
And you could see like how smart they are. Like he literally they follow him as he breaks through the wall, and then
3 punches in these big old trees they have as a fence is just gone.
I have some problems with this scene, and it's really kind of nitpicky stuff. There's a scene where Tommy is literally running down Main Street as like infected are running by him, and I'm like, why are the infected running by him? They're not attacking
I wondered
this
that
human.
too.
Why?
I did too.
Yeah. Well, I think it was actually. Oh no, it was. Yeah, because he got the flamethrower before they actually break through the wall. But
because the other guys run off. Like they're gonna make their stand, and then like 3 of the guys run
They're
off.
Like,
As
I know.
bye. But I think it was to be more dramatic because his wife's on the roof and she's fighting off, and she actually shoots at the bloater, which then is like, well, I'm coming for you now. He changes direction, and then Tommy has to distract the bloater from not going over there. But it was literally one of those scenes where it's like kind of slow-mo, but it's like very dramatic as he's like shooting infected, but there's like dozens of them just running by him. I'm like, why? Why? I don't understand.
Yeah, I wondered that too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they would just be ganging up on whoever's next, like whoever's
Absolutely.
closest.
Right. That was more like zombie mentality.
Yes.
If they're eating one, but if they're not occupied, you can still skirt by, you know. Or if they're not occupied, that's when they're a problem.
But the thing is they, from what I know, is the infected actually don't eat people. I think their main purpose is to infect. That is what the cordyceps do. They just are there to infect.
Okay.
And the most tense moment for me like this is all insane and like it's super stressful, but everybody in that basement
Yeah.
and you just hear that like something is trying to break through and you're just like, please don't. There are
Everything's happening up
children.
on the street.
Yeah.
It's all kids. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh no,
And I know like
please.
Tommy's son is down there. And
Mhm.
I was always confused. I was like, why would you have both parents in harm's way? Wouldn't you want like, I feel like Tommy would be like, Maria, you need to stay with our son because if
Yeah.
something happens to me, you need to still be around. But no,
Yeah.
She's
let's
like one of
have
the leaders, though.
yeah,
In that kind of society, you really don't have a choice but to put all your main guys or gals on the line
yeah.
because they're the strongest, really.
But
Yeah. What did they? I forget what the exact what they said at the beginning, where it's like all the people certain age have to be down in the basement. Everybody off the main streets go up
yep,
to the second floors or whatever.
yep.
But I think
Yeah.
that whole town, every like scene and everything, like the attack and all that, I think they did a tremendous job of like building that tension throughout the whole episode until it finally
Oh
reached that.
yeah.
Just like them clearing the streets and like you said, putting the people down in the basements. They did a great job of executing that perfectly.
Mhm.
Just because we didn't know that was happening, that wasn't in the game, obviously, but we didn't know what was going to happen with Tommy or Maria. Like
Mhm.
we're kind of going uncharted territory. We don't know if one of them were going to get killed or bitten or something like that.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think they did a tremendous job with that, and I'm very eager to see what they change going forward as far as, like, maybe if they do make any big changes or just, like, little scenes here and there.
Yeah, especially
I'm wondering
now.
about that too.
Yeah, because especially knowing like Tommy wasn't with Joel when he died
Yeah.
in the show, so it's gonna be not. I mean, of course, he had to deal with his death in the game, but he was with him. He was there and witnessed the death.
Yeah.
So we have to see the grieving process, of course, of from Ellie and from Tommy and kind of everybody involved. Dina too, because Dina, in the show they show that Dina and Joel had a very close relationship. Like she was another daughter to him. So we
Mhm.
have
Right.
to
Yeah,
deal
yeah,
with.
yeah.
I feel like the dynamic between Ellie and Dina is going to be, I wouldn't say significantly different than what we see in the game, but I think there will be some differences, but
Yeah.
I think it's still going to kind of follow the same path. Um,
I
yeah,
like the attack on the settlement, but I don't necessarily like that Tommy wasn't there with Joel, just
yeah,
because what happens throughout, like, the rest of the story, as far as the game goes, at least. I don't know what they're doing with the show, but, I mean, obviously, Tommy's gonna want revenge for somebody killing his brother, but at least in the game, like, he knows who they were. He's seen them, who they
right,
were, and all that,
yeah,
so, like, that gives him a reason to wanna go out and find them, whereas, like, he doesn't know who he's looking for at this
right.
point. Like, he just knows somebody killed his brother. He doesn't know who they are. The only one he really knows is Ellie and Dina,
And I think
and
that's what
that's
but it makes sense in that case that Dina would go with Ellie on
yeah, but
that
I'm saying, like,
quest.
as far as the game goes, I'm
Mhm.
confused on what they're gonna do with Tommy
Right.
now
Yeah.
throughout the show story, you know?
I mean, I feel like Tommy is kind of going to be in the background as like, hey, we got fucked. And so
Yeah,
we need to clean
gotta
up the
stay here
mess
and build.
here. Yeah, we got to rebuild Jackson. I mean, there was one heartbreaking to be honest, the scene to me that was more heartbreaking than Joel was the dude, just a random guy who was like on the roof and I don't know if it was Tommy or if it's just another guy, but he shows him his bite on his arm
Oh,
and then the
yeah.
guy has to
So
kill him.
subtle.
I was like, "Oh man."
Such
Just
subtle, great camera work. Just
yeah.
like panning
Yeah.
through that shot down and you
Mhm.
see it and you know what happens. You hear the shot. Yeah. I like little moments like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I
and even though with, like, the Joel stuff kinda being a little underwhelming, I think that last, like, maybe couple minutes of the episode really is what kind of drove it home and kinda made that impact that wasn't felt throughout that scene, especially with, like, Ashley Johnson singing the song from the
yes.
game and
Yes.
everything, and
Yes.
you have them dragging Joel back to town from on the horse and all that, and then you
Mhm.
see the aftermath of the attack and all that. I think that was such
Yeah.
a great wrap up to the episode where you really feel that impact, even though it wasn't necessarily felt within the moment itself during
Yeah.
Yeah.
like Joel's death and all
I
that. I feel
agree.
like they did a great job of wrapping it up.
Because we see them going back to Jackson and we see the smoke coming up and the
Hmm.
destruction. And yeah, that was great.
Yeah, cuz I mean, I think what the subtle change of them doing having Tommy stick in Jackson and dealing with the attack and the smoke, and that's what concerns Joel the most. Is he's like, we got to get out of here, and that's when the whole thing with him and Abby happened. Where in the game there wasn't that distraction. It was just they ran into them and they saved him. Then they went back to the cabin, and then everything happens. And Joel fights back more in the game because of that. Because Ellie actually shows up before he gets his, clock cleaned with the golf club.
Kneecapped.
She's there for Ellie is there for the whole thing. Like she is there before like anything happens to Joel, and she has to watch it all happen, where she kind of walks in and like he's pretty much dead already when she shows up. Like there's a moment where she tells him to get up and you can see him attempt, and then he falls back down, and then his final blow. Yeah.
Does that.
Yeah. And then there's the final blow with the golf club. So, like I said, it wasn't super disappointing, but I get the direction they wanted to go. They didn't want to do the exact same story. And of course, you got to have, like, I feel like with shows like this, you got to have some sort of bombastic moment. And the attack on Jackson was that moment. I remember, watching it, and I was just like, oh, I'm sold. Like, this is insane. Yeah. Like, show me the amazing, it was great because I listened to the official Last of Us podcast that is kind of connected with this, and Craig Mazin, who's one of the creators of the show, he was like, we want to respect the game, but we also want to, do something different. There was certain aspects of the game that they would only mention, but we kind of want to broaden, those moments.
You're able to do that
something into something bigger. The guy who directed this episode actually directed Bella Ramsey's first episode on Game of Thrones. Right? It was actually her first ever acting gig.
Yeah.
Wasn't his name Mark Mylod?
Yep.
I think he directed, was it
Succession?
Succession, yes.
Oh, nice.
That's right.
He was actually
I love that show.
He was actually asked to direct episodes in the first season, but he was busy doing Succession at the time, so he wasn't available. But
great show.
I think he did a great job. There was a lot of great effects done. I think Weta did the CGI effects for the episode, and I guess there was actual actors in like the makeup and stuff doing like mixed in with the CGI creatures. So
well, I was gonna say, like, with all the different effects they have, I couldn't tell. It didn't look like they used CGI to replicate or fill in a lot of the different areas. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, you couldn't tell that like they use CGI to like fill in like the back half of like these hordes or whatever that are chasing them and stuff, instead of using like 100 different people. I think the effects were great in it.
Oh, absolutely. I love the bloater. The showdown between Tommy and the bloater I thought was really good. Of course, it's one of those cliched moments where it's like, he's just like, he's facing death. He's that close to death, and then boom, the thing dies. You're like, oh, I've seen this before.
Like, helps build and run this town. He didn't know there was a dead end there when he was running away.
Damn it. If you feel like you're in the game, because like half the things in the game you can't climb, so you're just like running down an alley, and you're like, shit, I can't climb this box. I'm looking at he goes down one part, and there's a bunch of boxes. I was like, you can't climb those.
Can't do that, Tommy.
He's like, this thing is too heavy. This flamethrower is too heavy. I can't go. But
I think they did a good job recreating that Abby scene too, where she's trying to escape the horde.
Yes.
She's like in that fence and the wall.
The fence
and it's like
was
smaller
tense.
and smaller. Yeah.
There was one shot where it was a infected hand like going through the links, like cutting in between its fingers. I was like, I
felt that.
But
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, this episode was a lot to take in. This is one of those episodes where I'm probably going to watch it again before episode 3 comes out, because my wife didn't get to watch it, so I have to watch it again because I want to see her reaction to everything that happens. But it's just, there's a lot, and I feel like I missed something. It's probably nothing major, but it's like I feel like I there's so much in it. Like we get to see, we get to hear more about Eugene, which is a character that we talked about in the first episode, who's the Catherine O'Hara's character's husband, who we talked about is actually going to be played by Joey Pants. So, we got more information about him. He was growing weed, and he was, we find out he fought in Vietnam, like these little subtle things that we're probably going to know more, in like we predicted, there's possibly going to be an episode that's going to focus on Eugene and Maria.
Yeah.
Or not Maria,
Mhm.
but was it Grace or what's Catherine
forget her
O'Hara's
name.
character's name? But yeah,
Well,
but we're
begin
going to
with a
see.
T.
We're probably going to see something with them. So because like we stated, you're not going to hire Joey Pantoliano to not use him except for
Mhm.
a picture on a
One
mantle.
picture.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
but
Catherine O'Hara was great. I loved her character. And
yeah,
when she saw that bag of weed and was like, Psst,
where
stems
was she
and
though?
seeds.
Where the hell was she
Yeah.
during the whole battle? Like, did she just?
She's in the
Probably
basement.
hiding.
She's in the basement. We didn't see her though, so I guess she just wasn't.
Yeah.
She wasn't on set
Yeah, I was
that
kind
day.
of hoping that like I didn't know when we were gonna get the whole Joel thing, so I was kind of hoping we'd maybe get another session or two with her and Joel. You know,
I feel like we'll
trying to
get like
figure things out.
flashbacks of it.
That's what I was about to say.
Maybe in
Flashbacks. I'm sure
meetings,
we'll get
but-
him more throughout the
Yeah.
season.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm sure
Just
it's
in
not the last
flashbacks
season
of
of Joel.
Ellie's stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of Eugene, we find out why Joel had to kill him. Pretty much, they don't say it. Jesse doesn't say it like specifically, but pretty much Eugene got infected and Joel had to put him down. Well, that was ultimately the thing. So that's why Catherine O'Hara is not. She's mad at Joel for killing her husband, but she's not. She doesn't like. That's why she still talks to him. Like that's why she was still seeing him as a patient and all that, because she understands why he had to do what he had to do, but she still hates him for having to do it, type thing. So,
It's
but
a
yeah,
fair response.
yeah. I mean, like I said, there was a lot in this episode. We probably missed some stuff. I know there was some things with like Ellie and Joel, and you know how they wanted to, how Ellie was trying to rekindle the relation, you know, their relationship and all that, which we're gonna see more.
That's a real
as
tragedy.
episodes. Yeah.
That they were just on the outs. And I love what Joel said to Dina, and I think it's the first episode when she's like, what's her deal with you? And then I loved how he said that, you know, his daughter never got to be that age, so he's never raised a 19-year-old, and she's never been 19, so they're both just trying to figure it out. And I was like, oh, that's a really good explanation. But then as a kid, I mean, Ellie's going to feel tremendous guilt, obviously, for not making things right.
Yeah. But I think that's
sad.
Yeah. It's going to be a heart wrencher as we go forward. It's going to be fun to see what direction the show decides to go in. Of course, this was a big one. This was a big one right off the rip. And as the game, you know, as people who played the game, you knew it was coming. And you may not have been super pumped when you actually saw it, but let us know what you thought of the situation. If you've played the games, if you haven't, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Make sure to leave comments down below on the video, or comment on our posts that we put on social media about the episode. I don't really know where they're gonna go in episode 3. We did like the preview for the episode was kind of weird. It seemed very vague, like there was all over the place, so it was kind of hard to pinpoint exactly what we're gonna see, other than I think just Ellie grieving Joel's death, and of course Tommy as well. And I think there's just gonna be like I think episode 3 is gonna be like just seeing people grieve for Joel,
the aftermath of everything.
So do you guys have anything else before we get out of here on episode 2?
No,
that was a great
episode.
episode.
We hit it all.
Yes,
it was
very, very good. Very good. I was very, like I said, I was pleased, a little bit of disappointment, but you know what? I think it's still, it's on the right track. And
yeah.
All right. Well, that is going to be it for our discussion on episode 2 of The Last of Us season 2. Well, actually, lastly, I think Wyatt mentioned it, the fact that Ashley Johnson did that song, which was the name of the episode. It was called Through the Valley, which she sings in the teaser trailer for The Last of Us Part 2, which was pretty cool. So that's my last little bit. But yeah, thank you for everybody for joining us. We will be back hopefully next week for episode 3. Like I said, if we miss a week, it's because one of us couldn't make it, and we will have to just do a double episode the week after. But hopefully we'll be back next week to talk about episode 3. So like I said, if you have any comments you would like to leave about our review on the episode, or what your thoughts are, or theories, or whatever it is it may be, please leave them down below in the comments, or you can comment on Spotify on the episode itself, or wherever you want to comment on it. Please let us know. Anna, what you got going on over on all the podcasts you're on?
When does this come out? Will it come out tomorrow?
This will be out tomorrow.
We just released Kill Bill Volume 1 on Give Me Back My Action Movies. and thought Anna April was coming to an end. Come to find out there's 5 Tuesdays in this month. But the fellows surprised me and they picked an Anna movie, ended up picking 1978's Dawn of the Dead, one of my favorites. That will be next week. On the Barrens, we released The Wraith, another first-time watch for me that I just fell in love with. Parker, I know you said you hadn't heard of it.
I've never heard of it. I've never seen it. I'd never seen it. I equated it to, I remembered the poster and it was about Charlie Sheen in a car, and that's all I remembered. But I absolutely loved that movie. It just oozed 80s. The soundtrack was a banger, and it was so good. And next week we'll all be in Salem for the Salem Horror Fest. I'm very excited. Yeah, you're gonna see all 3 of the Barrens Hideout crew, and I'm gonna be there for one day. You'll see. I'll be in Salem for it on Saturday. So if you're
full day,
if you're in Salem on Saturday, was it May? I don't remember. It's like the weekend of May 3rd, I think. I don't know. Yeah, you can see all the Barrens crew and me.
May 3rd.
And I'll probably be wearing this exact shirt. So
you probably will. Looks great.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So thank you. Wyatt, you got anything new that came out since we talked last week?
Yes, we celebrated 420 with Movie Dumpster Guys. The Dumpster Duo.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I was over there. They had me on their channel. We did a review of Cheech and Chong's Nice Dreams. And then on my channel, Cinema Trip Reviews, we did a review of Half Baked.
Yes.
So definitely go check those out.
Yes. And the Nice Dreams one was an interesting listen because I had never, that's a Cheech and Chong movie I'd never heard of. So it was interesting to listen to you guys talk about it, and your thoughts on it was interesting.
Yeah, not one you really need to go back to.
Yeah. As for us, currently our Duel episode is out from 1971. We just released our latest Monster Zone episode on the 1959's The Alligator People. And then this Friday is our 200th episode of the Dissect That Film podcast, where we are talking about the 1996 comedy Kingpin. So make sure to check that out.
Nice.
A lot of wonderful content between the 3 of us. And hopefully all 3 of us will be here next week to talk more Last of Us. So thank you to my wonderful co-hosts here. And thank you to everybody who listens and watches. And until next time, I'm Brett Parker. That is Wyatt. And that is Anna. And this has been another Slice of TV. See y'all again next time. Bye.